Thank you everyone for following my channels, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. It means a lot that you guys are following so far. It's been probably a week and a half since I've done a video vlog, and that's because I've been doing a lot of sketches, a lot of drawing, illustration, animation. I've really gotten into the art processing of mental health. Today is day 25 of Schizophrenia 365. So thank you guys for following up to this point. Today is really just going to be more of a reflection for me, not really a topic, but more me just kind of talking what's going on. So for those who haven't watched before, I have schizophrenia, or rather schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type. So schizophrenia comes first, then I have bipolar, which comes second, which is, I would say, the add-on to my already really drastic and severe schizophrenia symptoms. I was first diagnosed in college in between freshman and sophomore year, roughly. So it's been 10 plus years since my diagnoses. And I've come a long way, but there's areas that, I'm not perfect. There's areas that I still struggle with. So a little bit about college, for example, that was when I struggled a lot. I didn't know much about schizophrenia. I was really trying to refuse to acknowledge I had schizophrenia. So, the voices had just really started to pick up to the point that they were bothering me. There was some visual hallucinations in between that time period. There's quite a bit of agitation levels rising. Impulsivity picked up a lot, probably tenfold during that time. I was able to reflect now, looking back, during college is roughly when I started having issues with emotion and feelings, meaning it started to be rather difficult for me to show emotions to people, to empathetically reflect or to show empathy towards people. During my college years was really the time to where my just facial features and how I talked and really how I showed care for other people. It's not that it went away, rather, due to schizophrenia, my brain was malfunctioning. And that's how I would put it, is that when you have a mental health disorder, diagnosis, whatever you want to call it, your brain starts to malfunction in certain areas of life. And in this case, we're talking about schizophrenia. So emotions and feelings was an area to where it definitely was malfunctioning a lot. Now, during that time also, I traveled to countless countries. During, 3, 4, is it 5? I don't even remember now. Is that during a set time period, I got married, and I was quite manic during that time. It was crazy the amount of times I traveled to a country, stayed there for a couple months, then moved to a different country or a different city. I would say probably junior year to the end of my grad degree. So it was a span of 4 or 5 years to where I was manic for, I want to say, 50% of that time period. I was manic. I was in a psychotic episode. I was in psychosis. I would travel to Thailand, and then after a month, I would get paranoid, so I'd go to Malaysia and then back to Thailand. There was times where I was manic and did the same thing when it came to going to Indonesia, then back to the US, then to Indonesia, back to the US. And so during that time, I wasn't reflecting on anything. I wasn't trying to understand what was going on. During that time, I really just was just blocking it out of my vision because I didn't want to admit that I had issues that needed to be handled. Now, I want to say with mental health issues, whether it's schizophrenia, bipolar, borderline, PTSD, any trauma-related disorder, there is quite a lot of history, documentation, research that shows that people with mental health disorders, they have a very difficult time, I would say, not only admitting they have an issue, but being able to reflect and notice they have an issue. Especially with schizophrenia, for me, during the first 4 or 5 years after my diagnoses, I refused to believe the doctor. I refused to believe the nurse. I would go, to inpatient. I would be hospitalized because of several suicide attempts. And I would yell at the doctors, at the nurses, at the therapists, at the psychiatrists. I would say they were wrong. I would say they don't know what they're talking about. I would say that they're out to get me, that, they work for the man, they work for the government, that they're CIA, FBI, God knows who, right? And so I was doing everything I can to try to really outsmart the people around me, even though I was the one who was really, trying to trick myself. My brain was trying to trick myself. My brain was trying to trick itself. Brain versus brain. And it sucks because when you're in that process of refusing to believe, having a hard time realizing it's happening, having a hard time realizing that you need help, it's so dangerous during that time period because a wrong move, a wrong choice, putting yourself in a situation can end your life. What I mean is that during those 4 or 5 years to where I was just refusing to acknowledge, I had trouble realizing that I really was messed up and I needed help. I was seconds away multiple times from dying, and I was seconds away from suicide attempts succeeding. And that's what I mean by when people have mental health issues, there is a very, very, very dangerous moment of time frame to where they are in greater danger than they think and that other people think. And that greater danger is between that time frame of when the issues start happening and then when they start reflecting and can kind of see, I need help, I'm fucking up. So there's that middle period right there that is so dangerous. And so I graduated, got my bachelor's, I traveled, I was manic, I was married, and then I got divorced. And during that time, man, the divorce hit me too. So I had schizophrenia, and then I got divorced, and that hit home a lot because I looked at it during that time. Now looking back, I was wrong, but during that time, I was thinking, well, everyone's leaving, I'm alone, no one cares. The person who I cared about left, so I'm not good enough to care for anyone. I can't take care of anyone. I can't take care of myself. That if I can't even love someone properly, how can I love myself? I shouldn't love myself. So during that time, my divorce was really impacting my schizophrenia and made it 10 times more severe because why? Of stress. And stress is something that impacts stress impacts every mental health diagnosis to man. And it's because when we're stressed, when we have high levels of agitation, confusion, whatever it may be, it puts pressure on our mental health diagnoses and it causes, I would say, severe, drastic repercussions, especially with schizophrenia for me. When I'm stressed, the voices get more demeaning, more demanding, more commanding. They get a lot meaner. They have threats of death. They have just physical threats. They start really shouting 24/7. They start shouting at people. I start having visual hallucinations if it gets even more severe. And those visual hallucinations will act like they're harming other people around me. And so stress for me impacts me a lot, and it impacts my schizophrenia. So I got divorced. I lived with my adopted parents for probably 6 months during that time, especially during the time I was getting divorced because of courts and paperwork. And that's something too that put quite a lot of stress on me. And that's just because my adopted parents, I hope the best for them. I don't, have any ill will against them. We didn't get along. We had our differences. And there was just things between both parties that if we stopped to think and if we stopped to talk and if we were open to each other, we probably would have better communication, and that would have helped our relationship. But also, that relationship, because it wasn't healthy, impacted my schizophrenia as well. So I had graduated, I went through a divorce, my family relationship just with parents and siblings and cousins was deteriorating, so that impacted my schizophrenia. And then, I didn't really know what to do, and so for about a year, I was in St. Paul, Minneapolis area. I was really struggling when it comes to living situation, having a place, working, car situation. My impulsivity was at an all-time high. I was leasing cars, financing cars, taking out loans. I was all over the place with spending and getting cash advance loans. It was nuts. And so it was probably 2022 is when I sold the house I had bought and I moved to Alaska. Excuse me. So I'd sold my house in Minnesota, moved to Alaska in mid 2022, I think, or early 2022. I think it was maybe February or March, but I moved to Alaska, I moved to Seward, and I started a new job there. Now, my schizophrenia during that time, I would say that I believed in my head that if I moved, that a change of location would help me and would make it so my schizophrenia isn't terrible. Now, that also, I would say overall, for mental health issues, and even non-mental health issues, when it comes to struggle, when it comes to problems, experiences, stress, whether it is a domestic abuse situation, whether it is an employment problem, whether it is a just personal problem that you're going through, whether it has to do with physical health or mental health, whatever it may be, that physical location changes, for the majority of the time, they're not going to solve your issue. That sure, temporarily, it might feel like something's different, that you're safe, that, things have changed, that mentally you're okay. There's that temporary honeymoon period after you move. But things slowly start crumbling and crashes down. Why is that? It's because if it's a personal issue with yourself, whether it's self-esteem, anger issues, addiction, drugs, alcohol, or a mental health issue, bipolar, schizophrenia, if you did not handle business and reflect on those issues, process those issues, and try to implement some sort of coping skills or even receiving help, whether it's a therapist, a support group, if you did none of that and you move, those issues are just going to follow you. And that's what happened to me. I moved from Minnesota to Seward, Alaska. My problems followed me, and there I was again. I was drowning in impulsivity, in confusion, the voices, the visual hallucinations, the agitation, emotions and feelings were hard to get out, and it was hard to empathize with people. And 2022 to 2023, almost a year and a half, I bounced job to job every 3 months. It's crazy. And part of that is my fault. Now, I've been living with schizophrenia for 10 years. And some people might be like, well, you've lived with it for 10 years. You should know what to look out for. You should know about the illness. You should be good. You should know what to stay away from, what to, get help from, support, community. Like, you should know all those things. It's been 10 years. Now, what I'll answer is that it's incredibly ignorant to think that. And this is why. That me having schizophrenia, it's changed my brain formation, how it works, connectivity issues. It's really, I would say, lowered the ceiling of what I'm capable of doing. So before working, I taught English overseas in a number of countries for a couple years. I held one job for a year at a homeless shelter. I held another job for about a year working for a cable company. You know, the longest I held a job, the most, was a year and a half. The shortest amount of time I've held a job, maybe a month. And so what it shows me is that what I'm capable of when it comes to employment, working, it drastically changed. Now, what does that mean? It means that I only can work a minimum amount of hours, whether it's 10, 15 hours. 10, 15 hours is probably where mentally I still would struggle, but it would be an area to where I can watch for it, I can reflect, I can kind of see if things are going either way, that I can kind of see if I'm heading down a bad path. So 10, 15 hours, right, is that area to where I'm comfortable. Now, if you go above 15 hours, at least for me, whether 15 to like 25, that's the red area that I would say, or even yellow red, meaning that's when my stress is going to go up. My auditory and visual hallucinations will be more severe. Agitation will be more severe. Feelings and emotions, empathy, impulsivity. And then after 25 hours, that's when it's in the red. It's to where within a week or 2 weeks, I'm probably going to need to go to the hospital because I'm just having really bad thoughts. And so for me, having schizophrenia has shown me that my skills, it's not that my skills diminished, it's that my skills have changed. That I'm not able to do the same things I was before 10 years ago. And so when it comes to working, 10, 15 hours a week, maybe. When it comes to spending, I cannot save. Since having schizophrenia, my impulsivity is off the charts. No matter how hard I try to save, open up a savings account, open up an account that has no debit card, whether I hide the money, whether I let a friend, co-sign on my bank account, no matter what I do, impulsivity-wise, I'm broke. That within a week, my whole paycheck will be gone and I'll have nothing. And that also means that within a week, I won't be able to pay rent, I won't be able to buy groceries, I won't be able to pay for a car note, insurance, phone bill. Within a week, my impulsivity due to schizophrenia wreaks havoc on my life. Now, does that mean that I'm a terrible person and that money and that that I just don't have the skills? I would say, like I said before, my skills change. So when it comes to money, that I understand and I know that you might have to work hard to earn a paycheck, right? That you might have to work for money so that you can live. That I register. But schizophrenia for me has really impacted the next step after that. So once you get your paycheck, that's where schizophrenia for me has impacted my life to the point, most likely I will need a conservator. I will need someone who will have control over my finances. They'll give me a debit card and say, I've put $100 on it. That's your spending money. That's all you're going to have. So schizophrenia for me has impacted me that way when it comes to monetary value of money. Another area that I've seen within this early 2022 to the end of 2023, that year and a half roughly, is that I cannot live on my own. Schizophrenia has impacted me a lot to where that I'm unsafe by myself. It's not that I'm going to cause harm to other people or hurt other people, go out and shoot people or, stab someone. No. What it means is that schizophrenia for me has limited my skills of being able to think in a way that I can have good judgment of my actions and behaviors and words. That due to my schizophrenia, it's definitely I would say, limited my memory, what I can remember due to childhood or even a week ago. It's limited I would say, memory skills of where did I leave my wallets, where did I leave my keys. So when it comes to that recollection ability, schizophrenia has put a tamper on that for me, that it's a skill that has diminished from me. That when I say I can't live on my own, what it means is my schizophrenia has made it to where, due to the impulsivity, due to the cognate, I can't speak cognate, lack of awareness, and also safety-wise, if I get stressed, if the voices are bad, if something's not going right, maybe my day's going shitty, that my schizophrenia and the voices may lead me down a path of self-harm, of cutting myself, of putting myself in a situation to where I'm in my safety is in jeopardy. So me being able to live by myself is also something that I've learned over the year and a half that I just can't do. Doesn't mean that I'm weak or that I can't take care of myself or that I should be locked up or in a mental asylum. No. What it means is that I need structure. I need a structured community to where it's individual but assisted living community to where I'm with other people who have intellectual disabilities, and that I have my own room, but then there's roommates, maybe 3 or 4 other people, and then there's 2-3 caregivers in the home. A community living space like that is what I need. And that's because I can't be by myself. I can't live by myself. I need individuals who are around me, who see what I'm doing, who can ask me questions of, do you think that's a good idea? Do you think it's good you're spending money? What are you doing on, Etsy? I see you have something in your cart. Are you thinking about buying that? So I need people around me who ask those questions and are observing my behaviors, my actions, and my words. And that's because they can see things I can't. That they can see me going down a bad path, the wrong road, and they can try to stop me from going all the way. And that's the kind of living situation I need. And so now, 2024, today, as we do this video, I'm in a situation to where I'm doing my best to figure out Medicaid. I'm doing my best to figure out which waiver I need so that I can get community support, so I can get a care coordinator that can help me find an assisted living home. And that's where I am today. And, is it easy? Hell no. But is it something that I have to do? Yes. I have to do it because I care about myself and I care about my own safety. And the fact is that I'm able to reflect that I do want to change, that I want to have better coping skills. I want healthier decision making, and I want to be able to be safe. I want to feel safe. And in order for all that to happen, I got to make changes in my life. And those changes, in any situation, whether it's mental health or not, change is hard for us to accept and hard for us to really go out and seek, because we get used to old habits. We get used to what we're doing. We get used to, or rather, we get comfortable with mediocre. And I don't want that. I want to be able to succeed, whether it has to do with art, poetry, books, whether it has to do with Dungeons and Dragons, whether it has to do with making friends or keeping friends, whether it has to do with, keeping the person who I love the most close to me, making sure I don't push them away. I want to succeed when it comes to family and feeling close with a community and close with friends and being able to be that person they can call up and be like, yo, I need your advice. I want to be able to have those things later. And in order for me to have those things, I need to be prepared to accept certain changes. And I do. And that's one thing I'm blessed with, is that self-awareness of, I know my limitations. I know what skills my schizophrenia has really depleted. I know the changes that I need to make because of my lack of awareness sometimes due to my own illness. And those are things that we're going to be doing within the next couple months. And, you know, I'll keep you guys updated for sure. But hopefully this vlog was good for you guys and you feel updated. And I will talk to you guys later. I love you guys. Peace and love. I love you guys.